The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
It's not a secret, but I'm going to whisper it because I'm incredibly excited. 9 days. 9 days until it is football time in Tennessee, and you can go to Dublin if you want. I was actually broadcast in Dublin this morning. Does that surprise you, Caleb?
Wait, you were broadcast in Dublin?
I was broadcast in Dublin this morning. What about that?
So I know you were on a national radio show. Are you telling me that show is carried in Dublin, Ireland?
That show isn't carried in Dublin, Ireland, but we've all got the Twitter and the YouTube now. So I was there. But anyway, it was kind of cool.
Oh my gosh.
There were people texting in questions from Dublin. But you can take your Dublin, go to Dublin. I'll take Chattanooga and seeing Nico as the first-time starter. I know it was a bowl game, but this is different. This is when it's all on him, and he's got a big deal Beats by Dre that we're going to get to. Has Nico been a little overhyped? This is kind of another level. Is this a big year for Joey Halzle? He'll visit with the media today. Several Senior Bowls, an enormous amount, like almost double digits, are on the Senior Bowl watch list. That is a good sign for Tennessee because I think you want to be older in college football than ever before. This day in Tennessee sports history, the SEC reveals its tie-breaking process, how that might affect the Vols. SEC standings predictions that you can check out on offthehooksports.com, our stat of the day, and our college football playoff predictions coming up. So if you would do me a favor, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button as we appreciate you being a part of the program. Look at Lance C. Sup, players. Yeah, we may not be the real players, but we're darn ready to talk about them. And I'm going to start with the biggest name of the bunch. I'm not even going to wait. I'm not going to hold the best for last. Here we go. It is today's tough question, and it's brought to you by our friends at Work Trucks.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Caleb, I want to get to Nico Iamaleava. Tell me about Beats by Dre, which, by the way, is a very overhyped product. I'm sorry if you have them. I'm an audiophile. They don't sound that great. But if you want skull candy, which is really affordable, this is what I use. But anyway, Tennessee is pushing out the Beats by Dre. They want this to be a recruiting tool for the future. I understand all that. But has Nico been overhyped?
So Nico Iamaleava joins two other quarterbacks in this deal, which is Jalen Milroe and then Florida State quarterback DJ Uiagalelei. What stands out is obviously Milroe and Uiagalelei have started previous years, have had very successful seasons with previous teams. Nico Iamaleava has not started a year yet. But no, he's not getting too much pressure put on him. And I'm going to respond by saying, and I'm not just going to say this because of my expectations for him personally. If you didn't want to put pressure on him, if you didn't think he could handle the pressure, you shouldn't have given him $8 million. The minute you gave him $8 million, I think at that point, it is fair game to say, I expect everything from you. And there's precedent for this. LeBron James got an $80 million shoe deal with Nike before he ever played an NBA game. Guess what? That was pressure. Guess what else? He was the same age as Nico, actually younger because he was a true freshman playing in the NBA because he didn't go to college. Oh, and he was playing professionally, not college football, not college-wise.
But Caleb, let me interrupt for a second. I'm talking about Tennessee specifically. They're the ones retweeting the Beats by Dre. I mean, back in the day, how did you handle it old school? Well, we hope he's okay. Or, you never know what to expect with a freshman. That's how you used to handle it. Every quarterback that I've ever covered that made his first start, including Casey Clausen against Alabama. Oh, we'll just see how he does. And this has been 180 degrees the opposite. And this is going to be the way it's going to be at a lot of schools. But I'm going to give you 3 options. It's not going to be this way at every school. I'm going to give you 3 options instead of just a yes or no. Has Nico been overhyped? And it's on our YouTube poll question right now. Yes, but it won't matter. Yes, and it could hurt him. No, he's just that good. So I ask you to choose from those 3.
No, he's just that good. And if it hurts him, I don't want him as my quarterback. Now, I'll back up. I'll say this. I have seen quarterbacks get overhyped who can be good, and it hurt them. The most obvious example is Eric Ainge in 2005 when Philip Fulmer said Eric Ainge has all the qualities Peyton Manning has. And then Eric Ainge just kind of collapsed. But I will say that...
Well, he did. In all fairness, he did. I mean, physically, probably not mentally. No, and it's not a knock on his intelligence, but just the way Peyton processed things was pretty crazy. I mean, I get it. But he's not Peyton Manning.
No, and also I thought Peyton Manning, was just to wrap this, I thought he was significantly more accurate too. Peyton Manning's accuracy is the most underrated part of his games.
I'll totally give you that. Misstep by Dave. Totally give you that.
Yeah. So when you take that into account, I've seen it happen, but I've also said that, look, man, but wasn't it Harry Truman who said if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen? And I'm just saying that I think that sometimes it's fair to put expectations on players, even if they're young, if they're making this money. I support their right to make the money. I support Nico Iamaleava's right to make his money. I also support massive expectations for this guy because he's making this money. I'm not one of those, let's throw the young guy in and see what he does. Can't wait to see the young guy play. No, I'm not giving him the whole young guy leash. I'm giving him the whole, I expect everything from him this year. I don't expect growing pains at all.
Okay. Other than his ability, I want you to tell me why you expect that. What has changed in football where you expect it? And I want you to think about this, and don't give me the Iowa game, because that Iowa game, you and I with some speed training probably could have gotten on that defense at some point next year. So don't give me the Iowa game, and don't talk about his ability or his ranking, but give me the reason why Tennessee would hype him as much as they have, as opposed to years past when they wouldn't do that. What's changed about college football? That's today's tough question, brought to you by Work Trucks, all about trucks, right truck, right place. Work Trucks, all about trucks that are actually available. That's tough. If you're a contractor, you know that. Trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle now. Time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down and has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting about time, Work Trucks saves you time with less back and forth trips, and trucks pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process quick and easy when choosing a vehicle from Work Trucks. With the NAPOD work bodies, they've got cranes and dump trucks. No dealership run around. You can be on the road tomorrow. Go to Work Trucks with an X, LLC.com. Work Trucks with an X, LLC.com. Clinton Highway in Knoxville, downtown Birmingham. Man, why risk chancing your future in business with the wrong piece of equipment? Work Trucks, LLC.com. Proud supporter of the Tennessee Vols. They'll make sure they fit your need to a T. So what's changed in 10 years? What's changed from sharing on the University of Tennessee Twitter feed, which might as well be just a sports information feed? I mean, that's what it's become. And sharing that, what has changed where we suddenly say, no, he's going for a world record, which would be to win a championship at Tennessee. It only happens about once every half century. He's going for a world record, but no, let's put the bar just a little bit higher. Why?
All right, here's what's changed. And this is actually evident in the NFL, but it's going down to college. the development process of quarterbacks now, and this is so funny you bring this up, Dave, because I just watched Tom Brady and Peyton Manning both be interviewed by Stephen A. Smith over the weekend, and they talked about the changing ways in quarterback play. Tom Brady thinks quarterbacks are now poorly coached, which is what leads to poor red zone offense in the NFL. Peyton Manning says systems are designed around quarterbacks now, and he doesn't blame coaches for doing that. Where I'm going with that is coaches now have created so many different offensive systems that you can plug the guy with the right physical tools in, that it's not about developing over the course of 4 years. When David Cutcliffe was offensive coordinator, you saw it, Dave. I mean, you watched Peyton Manning. I actually saw it more with Eric Ainge. I will say that. Like, he had Eric Ainge basically kind of evolve from a standard drop back passer, do what you're told from the sideline, to running the no huddle offense by the end of 2007. And that, kind of, you throw a little bit more, throw a little bit more, throw a little bit more until they're ready. I think Steve Sarkisian still does that. But so much of football now is the coach says, I have this system, and I'm just going to go find the quarterback with the physical tools to fit the they're not going to really have to learn too much. I'm just going to tell you right now, that's what Andy Reid did with Patrick Mahomes. He said, I'm going to make my system, I'm going to tweak it, and Patrick Mahomes will just fit it because he's just that good. But if this were the NFL 15 years ago, Dave, I think Patrick Mahomes might be your run-of-the-mill average quarterback. I don't think he picks up that much.
Oh, we'll have to differ on that. I want to go to our message board. A couple of great points brought to you by TriStar Hats. For the latest in TriStar Hats, go to the original hats, apparel, and more, TriStarHatsCo.com, TriStarHatsCo.com, and they're going to be everywhere. Use the promo code HOOK for 10% off. Dylan, great point. Football has changed a lot since Peyton. Nico was back up to Bryce Young, and high schools has been playing 7-on-7 for years. We're expected a lot of Nico because he's been that good everywhere. Good point. Now, Lance says Nico's performance factors into the hype. I guess I'm in the minority because I knew he would play that well against Iowa. I had no doubt in my mind. And as a matter of fact, if Iowa had any stones, he would have thrown for about 300 yards, but they were playing soft because they knew they could get the doors blown off of them. So here's basically what you're saying and what Dylan's saying on our message board is that as long as you're big enough, you can step in and play quarterback right away because you've learned it from 7-on-7. The only possible pitfall, Achilles heel that you might have is lack of toughness, where SEC teams knock the hell out of you 20 times a game instead of you were getting hit once or twice per game in high school. Is that pretty much the determining factor? Are you tough enough to stand in the pocket? Because everybody's not.
That is a great question, but I honestly think that's where you can't throw the Iowa game out. Because Iowa, whatever you think about them, yes, they play a soft zone coverage. They're a slow team. Gosh, I feel like I'm using all the racial stereotypes for Iowa's defense because I'm saying they're slow, but they're tough and they play. You know what I mean? They play with the
whole white thing. Every guy, his dad was a coach, and they were gym rats. And I know. I know. I make fun of all the stereotypes all the time.
Yes, but Iowa's defense is that. They're slow, but they're really tough, and they don't play out of position. And Nico was willing to run a lot in that game, and he took a lot of hits, and he got back up. And see, the thing about the Iowa game, Dave, this is the crazy part. They play a soft coverage, yes. But you know how hard it is for a freshman with Nico's ability to willingly take what's given to him in his first start?
I thought that was the most. I don't care about his arm. I don't care about his running ability in that game. The fact that he didn't say, it's Nico Day, I'm here, I'm going to throw for a lot of yards no matter what defense you give me. His mental approach and how he managed that game, and I know it's a bad word to call somebody a game manager, but in that case, that's what Tennessee needed. He did that perfectly.
Perfectly. And by the way, I don't care if this was senior Peyton Manning, he would have had to play that game the same way because of how Iowa played its defense. I mean, I don't care if it's Aaron Rodgers in the NFL. How Iowa play that defense, you don't take the shots downfield. Nico said, you're going to leave this open for me? I'll take it. And this is where Nico is actually different from what I just talked about, which is that the problem with this system quarterback play now, this era of system quarterbacks, which all coaches are doing from college and up, because you're not developing them, Dave, you notice that when you get to the red zone offense is really bad in football right now. I don't know if you know that. It's horrible. And because red zone offense it doesn't come down to the system. It comes down to the accuracy of the quarterback and understanding what to do.
I thought about this yesterday. I think it is. I think it's just more athletic dudes playing. There are more football players because the population's grown, and it's easier on offense. All 11 people have to do something right. On defense, only one person has to do something right.
Well, yeah,
I think there are more. I think there are more elite athletes, and you brought this up yesterday because the population's just growing.
That's true too. But I also think quarterbacks aren't being coached to do like basic fundamental things that they were coached to do 15 years ago, because the coaches are now just like, I'll just plug them in my system and make them work. Nico is the guy, and he showed this with Iowa, that when he gets to the red zone and things get tight, he'll still make the right decision, and he'll still make the accurate pass. The physical stuff we knew was already there, and he willingly took hits from Iowa. So I saw that, and I say, I don't know where his game is missing. I don't. And so maybe he was too quick to run rather than go to the second read. That might be a problem. But honestly, I thought he was going through his progressions in that game, Dave. I thought Nico actually made calculations. I can get more running than I can go into my second read here. And that's what I saw.
All right. Fair enough. Now, that was a pretty hot first segment. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. So go ahead and hit that like button if you haven't yet. And if you haven't subscribed, we're blowing up. And I haven't told you yet, Caleb, but if you're not subscribing, you don't have your notifications on, you're not going to know. But we have a very special guest coming on, a current Tennessee player that we're going to visit with today. So we look forward to that. And it's a guy that we've talked about a whole lot. Dylan, thank you for saying this. I thought the whole point of being a quarterback was to be a game manager. Yes, but sometimes guys say game manager. No, I'd rather be a Mike Vick type. But no, game manager has different connotations for different people.
But there are game managers who their job is to not mess up. Trent Dilfer was a game manager.
Right. He's not Trent Dilfer.
Yes, he's not Trent Dilfer. Yes.
Right.
Trent Dilfer, basically, I know this. The Ravens would say, hey, and he would say, how many points do you need us to get you, defense? And they're like, get us about 10 in this game and we got it covered. They would literally spot, like, just get to this number and we got you covered the rest of the way.
I wonder how many times that defense outscored its own offense. That was a pretty good football team. I had a chance to cover those guys back in the day when they were battling with the Titans. And
don't remind me of that playoff game.
Eddie
George was.
Oh, I was there. I was. Who missed the field goal at the end?
Del Greco had it blocked.
No kidding. Accidentally took the elevator down with Al Del Greco.
And he knew he was going to get cut, right?
It was the quietest elevator. Right? It was me, us like a sports information person, and him. Joey Halzle will meet with the media today. And I think this is a big year for Joey Halzle, a monstrous year. The show represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, play to win. Other attorneys say they go to trial. They don't, because they just want to go ahead and settle. Well, you get the most money, you get the best judgment when you go to trial. So that's Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. 30 seconds. And how big is 2024 for Joey Halzle? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? Banks and Jones, T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com.
4 downs, 4 questions, 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
It's Joey Halzle to meet with the media today. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Sports Treasures. I'll tell you more about them. And they have a big-time signing on Saturday with Chris Breisel that you'll want to attend. I'll tell you more about that. We'll visit with Zach Hare of Sports Treasures in just a little bit. Joey Halzle, this is a monster year for him, depending on your perspective. I think these downs will help us gain perspective of where our audience is, because I'm not sure Joey Halzle has a big impact on Tennessee one way or another. What should people do, Coop?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
I went down, Coop.
Coop here. First down.
First down is this, Caleb. Did Joey Halzle hold back Tennessee's offense last year? They lost Alex Golish, and obviously they were better in 22 than 2023. Halzle, some people just don't like. Your thoughts?
No, I don't think he held them back last year. I think, and I'm not going to put this all on Joe Milton. We've done that enough here. But beyond Joe Milton not being a fit for that offense, we're kind of underrating that there was a rash of injuries that hit that team last year. If you had a quarterback who wasn't a fit for your offense, who, by the way, was playing banged up at time, your go-to receiver went down for the season, your starting center missed the first half of the season, your number 3 receiver went down for the season. Let's be honest, you're kind of playing with one hand behind your back.
And let's remember this, too. I don't think they were going to do this, but Nico was a little banged up at the beginning of the season. So let's say Halzle's some offensive genius, and he can put together a package to help Tennessee be a better offensive football team. Well, you don't have – Joe Milton's banged up. He can't run a lot. And then your backup is banged up, and he's too young to put in. So, no, I agree with you. I'm not going to bash on Milton, but I don't think it was Joey Halzle's fault. What down, Coop?
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Does it really matter who Tennessee's offensive coordinator is?
For a while, I would have said no, because this is Josh Heupel's offense. It's Josh Heupel's system, and I think Josh Heupel is very confident in his system. But then I actually thought about their previous 2 offensive coordinators before Halzle, and it was Alex Golish and Jeff Levy. Both of them had totally different backgrounds. Alex Golish coached at Iowa State for 4 years as a tight ends coach. He was a tight ends coach his whole career in the Big 10 and the Big 12, coaching physical ground and pound teams. Whereas Jeff Levy before that was in the the Art Briles system. I think both of those brought a different perspective to Josh Heupel that allowed him to do certain creative things at times. The one thing I will say, and I know I'm 180ing myself a lot from what I just said. I just don't think the drop-off last year was Halzle's fault. But I do think one problem with Halzle, he doesn't bring a unique perspective to look at things for Josh Heupel. And I think that, his whole career was working under Josh Heupel. And I do think that in certain moments that could be a problem.
I don't think it matters. And a lot of this I'm taking from Jimmy Hahn's story that was incredible. I had some unnamed SEC coaches, and it said that Heupel is still way ahead of the curve. So I don't think it matters. I would like somebody to get me coffee. I would like somebody to do things for me, maybe clean up my office a little bit. But I don't want Joey Halzle creating my offense if I'm Josh Heupel, because I am one of the smartest offensive minds in the nation.
But see that, Dave, that's the thing. But Alex Golish was helping him create the offense, and so was Jeff Levy, and both of them are head coaches now. And this is the thing. You may be right. It's Josh Heupel's offense, but isn't that kind of an issue where don't you think Alex Golish and Jeff Levy both help provide a different perspective every now and then? I'll get just an example. You say Bruce, let's take basketball. Bruce Pearl's system, the flex offense with the press when he went to the SEC, was so ahead of the curve. That doesn't mean Steve Forbes didn't bring a ton of value to it when he was coaching under Pearl.
Steve Forbes, but Tim Banks is the Steve Forbes of this crew. Forbes was an excellent defensive coach. And I don't think Pearl went to Forbes and said, help me with this inbounds pass play that I'm really, really good at.
Okay, fair enough, but maybe a bad example then. But I will say, Alex Golish absolutely helped Josh Heupel. You don't think he helped Josh Heupel you don't think when they got under center and handed it off to Princeton Fant in 2022, that was Alex Golish that was behind that?
Yep. And what did South Florida go last year?
7-6.
Which is pretty good. For first year. So I think he's a pretty solid coach. What town is it, Coop?
Tennessee Center, Cooper Mays here. Third down.
I'm going to get to third down and remind everybody it's brought to you by Sports Treasures. Chris Brazel will be at Sports Treasures in North Knoxville on Sunday, and he will be autographing items for you. We'll have more information with Zach Hare of Sports Treasures, over 5 million Sports Treasures, and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best in sports memorabilia. And third down is, Do you expect Halzle to bring new ideas to the table?
No. And you see, that's the problem. That is Joey Halzle is. It's funny. Jimmy Hyams talked about this yesterday with Nick Saban. He said the difference with Kirby Smart and like a Jeremy Pruitt is Kirby Smart is his own person, and Jeremy Pruitt tried to just replicate Nick Saban. Well, why is that? Jeremy Pruitt had been totally like developed in the Nick Saban way, which is weird because he had coached under Mark Richt and Jimbo Fisher, and even won a national championship with Jimbo Fisher. But it seemed like he just was nothing but a Saban protege. So when he goes to Tennessee, and Derek Dooley too, by the way, his whole career as an assistant was under Saban as a major on-field assistant. And so they both have no ideas of what to do beyond what Saban wants to do. And you feel like Joey Halzle's that with Heupel. All Joey Halzle knows how to do is repeat what Heupel does. And I've always said this, you never want a guy who just repeats what the person he worked under did, because you can never repeat what the person you worked under did. Alabama learned that with Bear Bryant. Tennessee learned that hiring Geno Neal and disciples and hiring Pat Summitt disciples, to be fair.
Joey Halzle is blank, an anchor, just fine. That's our question on the YouTube page. We want you to answer that. If you haven't hit like yet, please do so, and be sure and be subscribed. You'll get that special guest this afternoon. Coop, again, what should people do?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thanks, Coop.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
Joey Halzle will be a head coach, yay or nay, one day. Let me quantify that just a little bit. Let's say group of 5 or higher. I don't mean high school coach.
Yeah, he's going to get a shot. He's going to get a shot because he's coaching Nico for the next 2 years. And let's just be honest, coaching Nico is going to do a lot for you.
I hate it when you talk me out of my argument in the middle of it. He doesn't strike me as head coaching material. Is that fair?
No, he's the offensive Brent Venables.
Okay. The offensive as a head coach, I got you. But they were both good coordinators. I think Venables was I think Venables was a better coordinator than.
You actually might be right, because Venables actually is a good defensive coach. That's a good point. Maybe I'll take that back.
Well, you're having a rough day in comparisons. I'm
off today, guys.
Here's what I expect. What I expect out of Joey Halzle and whoever's in the offensive coordinator position. And I think Tennessee was fortunate that they got out an Alex Golish, like you mentioned, that brought things to the table. I expect you to coach my quarterback and his fundamentals to an absolute T. No pun intended. He needs to be perfect. I don't want to look at him and see his elbow drop. I don't want to look at him and see bad footwork. He is essentially my quarterback coach. He gets the OC so that I can give him a little more money because I like him, but he doesn't need to be telling the receivers what to do. He doesn't need to be telling the offensive line, of course, on what to do. They have great coaching. He needs to make sure that Nico or whoever the quarterback might be in question is perfect fundamentally. Caleb, bless you. And that's what I expect out of Joey Halzle, and that's it.
I agree. I totally agree. That's exactly what I expect out of him too. It's funny though. Like, say Joey Halzle does go out and get another job somewhere else. Say Josh Heupel wins a national title with Nico, and the NFL comes calling, and Josh Heupel just can't resist. I know you don't. I think you think he'll say, but just engage me for a minute. Say he can't resist, or say Oklahoma finally cuts ties with Bob Stoops, fires Brent Venables, and rolls out the red carpet for him, and literally does a "we're sorry" welcoming tour for Josh Heupel, literally where people have these signs we're sorry, we owe you, and you are our Lord and Savior, and something like that, to where he finally will go home to Oklahoma. If Tennessee then is in the market for a head coach, they're in a position where they could just take an Alex Golish or a Jeff Lebby. Do you think Joey Halzle would ever be on that list? If they wanted to keep the Heupel offense going?
It depends if he coaches. There were times that I thought David Cutcliffe and John Chavis would be reaches as head coach, and I was obviously wrong on one of them, but right on the other. And then I saw them mature over the years as coaches, and I definitely thought David, he would be great. So I guess it's really in how he matures. I would have trouble answering that question. I can tell you if that happened, that there's no question in my mind. If they just promoted from within, Tennessee's fan base would freak.
Probably. It hardly ever. I'll say this. I'm not one of those like, oh, following a legend. You can't do that. I don't say that. I will say whenever you promote from within and try to keep the same system going developed by the previous head coach, that never works because not everybody, that head coach is unique, right? I mean, they can't. Yeah. So, but I would say like an Alex Golesh who's proven he can do it out somewhere else. I think an Alex Golesh or Jeff Levy, you could probably get both Heupel disciples. Nice rhyme. And then, but their own guy, their own person, and would take Tennessee job relative to where they're at now. Sorry, Mississippi State. I know you're in the SEC, but if Tennessee comes calling, a coach is leaving Mississippi State.
Just $9.98 a month. You can be a part of Hooker's Corner, get increased recruiting coverage, and you will also get more interaction with me and Caleb Calhoun as the season goes on, because that's what we all want, right? And prizes, great prizes. Look over my shoulder if you're on a video platform, and you can win a mini helmet autographed by Joe Milton, and it's the orange one with the white stripe, and it is sweet. Just $9.98 a month, or just become a free member and you can be a part of Rick Terry's Grade 8 Garmin Challenge. Get ready for Rick Terry's Grade 8 Garmin Challenge, brought to you by the one, the only Rick Terry. And here's how it works. You have to be subscribed and you can be a free member of Hooker's Corner. And then we're going to draw once we hit 8,000 subscribers. We are going to hold a drawing for a Garmin watch worth over $1,000. So be a member of Hooker's Corner, be subscribed to the show, and you are in good shape. Caleb, we got some seniors, a lot of them, on the Senior Bowl watch list. And I want to discuss that because I'm asked if this is an experienced football team, and everybody wants to point to the secondary. It may be time that we redefine the word experience. With Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker, back in 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford & Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Experience quality and value in this pre-owned 2023 Ford Expedition Limited 4x4 $67,950, 2017 Ford F-150 Raptor SVT $41,950, 2023 Ford Escape ST Line $28,940. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
He tries very hard. The Dave Hooker Show.
All I know is when we win a game, it's a team win. When we lose a game, it's a team loss.
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Touchdown! Unbelievable!
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Well, there's a new rule I really hate with the Senior Bowl. I'll have to talk to them about that next time I get a hold of those guys. Usually it's SEC Media Days. There's a new rule where they can invite junior eligible players to the Senior Bowl. Before we dive into the mini Vols who were picked on the Senior Bowl watch list, that means James Pierce Jr., he's not going to go to the Senior Bowl, but that means he got invited. What are your thoughts on that rule?
Yeah, I don't get it. I think this is a way to try to make people more excited about I think this is a way to make people more excited about the fact that they could do more draft analysis with it, because I think people love draft coverage, and now all the best draft picks are players leaving early for the pros. So I think this is a way to generate more coverage for, they want the first takes down there of ESPN, or they want the Fox Sports shows down there, because those guys do all the pre-draft talk of the top, first round guys. And those first round guys are generally guys now who leave early, right? So that's what they want. It helps generate more coverage because of that.
But you and I know that there is no way in creation that a draft eligible guy 9 out of 10 times they're not going to go to the Senior Bowl because they're projected so high that they don't want to risk injury at the Senior Bowl. I mean, James Pierce Jr., I will go ahead and bet 5 mortgages is not going to be at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama.
Yeah, he's not going to be there. They're hoping some of them will show up, though, because the truth of the matter is, Dave, and I will tell you this, I know this, scouts are, I talk about unintelligent people in positions of power in football all the time. Scouts can be some of the most unintelligent people. The things that they value are mind-numbingly stupid. And at the top of that list is the Senior Bowl. They value that, and they value bowl games, and they overvalue those and become prisoner of the moment way too often. I've seen it 1,000 times over, and I think you might see that again. And so, because if you're James Pierce and the scouts ain't that bright, you may want to show up for the Senior Bowl. Now, James Pierce, you're right, that wouldn't be the guy. He wouldn't be the guy, because James Pierce is going to be a top 5 pick, and it's going to be so consensus that it would be news for him not showing up for the Senior Bowl, because everybody would know he's going to be that great. So no one's going to be like, oh, well, James Pierce, we don't know what he did in the Senior Bowl, so I don't know if we can take him. I mean, no one's going to do that. Yep. But I do think that there could be other juniors that might do that.
Okay, so let's take a look at the seniors that were invited. I'm going to see if you and I differ on this. So who are not invited? Who are the Senior Bowls on the watch list?
So Vols on the Senior Bowl watch list, because you said who are the Senior Bowls on the watch list. Sorry.
Senior Vols on the bowl. Yeah. The watch list for the Senior Bowl.
All righty. We just named James Pierce Jr. Now let's name the actual seniors. Cooper Mays, Javonte Spraggins, John Campbell Jr., Brew McCoy, Amari Thomas, Omar Norman-Lott, Bryson Eason, and Keenan Peely.
Okay, I want to talk about those guys. It's first, I want to ask you, who are the top 4? James Pierce Jr. is not, we're not going to discuss him. He's not going to the Senior Bowl. It's silly. So who are the 4 out of the true seniors of that group that you think are the 4 best? I'm curious if you agree on this.
For the NFL, I think Cooper Mays, because of Brew McCoy.
Okay.
Call me crazy, but I'm going to go Javonte Spraggins.
Javonte Spraggins over an Amari Thomas? I know you're
Amari Thomas. Amari Thomas is my 4th one. Amari Thomas is my 4th one. But again, I say this all the time, and I want to say this about Amari Thomas. I love the guy. I mean, I do. I told you I love him. But Dave, I love him because he at his max in college is a solid player who takes another step because he's got a Rudy Hard and great leadership skills. But solid player, your NFL potential is very limited at that point, right?
Fair. Okay, so I'm going to reset it because I had a different 4. So I'm going to go with yours because yours is better, because I forgot my buddy Coop. I feel really bad about it.
And by the way, and before people ask, I'm not naming Keenan Peely because Keenan Peely's 135 years old, okay?
Yeah, and our first one, Peely got 0%. Yeah, Keenan Peely, I got to see him play more. So who will be the Vols' top senior? Brew McCoy, Omari Thomas, Cooper Mays, Javontes Spraggins. I could see all 4 of those making all SEC. That would not surprise me at all.
I can tell you right now, 3 of them will. And the only reason Brew McCoy won't, if he doesn't, is if because he dictates so much coverage that Tennessee starts going more squirrel white.
I talking to a source just yesterday, Brew McCoy, if you thought he was an incredible athlete before, has even upped the level that his body is at now. I think he's going to look even better, and he looked really good. So any outside the top 4, because the poll question right now, Brew McCoy and Cooper Mays tied at number 1, followed by Omari Thomas and then Javontes Spraggins. I think we're selling Javontes Spraggins a little bit short, guys. But who else out of that group, not James Pierce Jr., out of that group do you expect to have a good season? Because I think that Brew, Cooper, Javontes will be all SEC players. Anybody else, including Omari, that will be all SEC players, an all SEC player, who has the best shot?
So Amari, I think he will, but I will say the hard part with Amari and any of the defensive tackles is, Dave, they rotate so much. It's just hard to really stand out as a defensive tackle. But I do think Norman-Lott will have a good season. Bryson Eason has always been there and a reliable team guy. I love Bryson Eason and Keenan Peely. I mean, so I think they're all going to have good, solid seasons. And John Campbell Jr. moving over to right tackle, guys, he could be an all-SEC guy too at right tackle. Don't sleep on that. The real question becomes, Dave, because I think I got a few people that may have been left off this list.
Okay, this is the early watch list, so I don't think that they know everybody, especially when you factor in, and I know the senior, but Jim Nagy, I know those guys, and if they had to factor in all these draft eligible juniors, then their workload didn't double, but it increased significantly. Who should have been on the Senior Bowl watch list?
The only one, the one I wanted to name, the main one I wanted to name was Elijah Simmons. And I know you could say that he hasn't done much up to this point, but neither is Keenan Peely. And that's about potential. But we keep hearing that Elijah Simmons, if he's right and if he's fully healthy, he's the defensive tackle on this list that could be a star.
Okay, let me do this. I'm going to set this up here. Drafted or not drafted? We're going to do that. Okay, so starting with Cooper Mays. We're drafted, right?
Hey now.
Drafted. He's, by the way, he's going to, even if he doesn't do well in the combine, the interview process, Cooper Mays is going to be the best interviewee of anybody.
You know why, don't you?
Because you taught him.
Yeah, you did weekly tutoring with Dave. Javontes Spraggins.
That's the extra services hookers provide. Tutoring.
And cuddling, but you have to pay extra for that. Javontes Spraggins.
Yeah, Bob Cooter would love that. Sorry. All right. No, but he should. But no, he'll sign with an NFL team and he'll make a name for himself. He'll sign with an NFL team and he'll land a roster spot and become a regular in the NFL, but he won't get drafted.
Okay, that surprises me you say that. I think he will get drafted.
Hey now.
John Campbell Jr. at tackle, drafted.
Yeah, he'll get drafted.
Okay.
That's crazy.
I don't think he's as good as Spraggins, so we differ.
I don't either, but we know what NFL scouts value.
He plays tackle. I get it. Brew McCoy.
Oh, yeah, he's getting drafted easily.
Hey now.
Okay, now you tell me when to stop. First 10 picks.
No. He won't be
Okay.
first 10.
Okay. First 20 picks.
Nope.
First round.
Nope.
Second round.
Yep.
Hey now.
I'm your Huckleberry.
I got to agree with you, and I hate it because I think the injury, even though he'll be completely recovered from that, I think that somebody will say we like that receiver better because they're similar, and that receiver didn't have the injury, and he may not be as old. But I'll tell you this, if you want a man, if you want a leader on your football team, he should be in the first round. And
I agree.
Sometimes that stands out, sometimes it doesn't, Caleb.
And it's twofold. So there is the injury, and there is also, you can say whatever you want about it and whatever he's been at Tennessee, but the NFL looks for this stuff and they look for reasons not to pick you. So his issue at USC is going to work against him, fair or not. That will be held against him.
Right. The issue where he was supposedly not supposed to go on campus and then the charges were dropped, and it sure sounded like Southern California's athletic department was mad at him, and that might have been part of it. That's a weird place. I told you I toured that campus with my son, right? I mean, it's almost like you go into like a prison that's right next to Compton. It's
it's right in the heart of SC, which, by the way, and you know this, Dave, because you cover recruiting, one of the reasons California or Colorado under Bill McCartney was so good, and Nebraska, was they would go into Compton because parents in Compton didn't want their kids going to USC because they wanted their kids to get away from the gang culture, honestly.
You're right. Don Self, State Farm customer service still matters. For 40 years, Don has built his business on taking care of their customers, greater Chattanooga area. Call Don Self, 423-396-2126, 423-396-2126, or go to donself.net, donself.net, which is in the description box just below. Amari Thomas drafted.
Yes, I think he'll get drafted. I think he'll get drafted very late. I think he's like, for those who don't remember, Matthew Butler, who was a draft pick from Tennessee after Josh Heupel's first year. He'll be like a 6th or 7th round draft pick, and he'll stay on the roster because I think wherever he goes, this is weird, Dave, but don't you think the NFL sometimes works like a business, which is to say that maybe a lesser employee at a business keeps his job because he's so well liked and he's just a good guy for camaraderie?
Not me, so I just axe him.
No, but I mean, Amari Thomas, even if he has some physical limitations.
No, I agree. I think there's a lot of, as a matter of fact, I don't want to exclude anyone, but I know for a fact that Mays, McCoy, Thomas, Peely, and again, I'm not trying to name them all, but I know there are at least 4 really good leaders, which should benefit them. But at the end of the day, the NFL is all just about what can you do for me. All right, so we got Omar Norman-Lott, drafted or not?
No, not enough chances.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But he will land a roster spot.
That's hot.
Same for Bryson Eason?
He'll get a shot. I think he'll get cut, though.
Okay. Keenan Peely.
He won't get drafted. He'll land a roster spot, though.
Boy, if he is the prototypical middle linebacker, you don't see many of those guys anymore. Have you noticed that? Guys are lighter and quicker. I mean, you don't see the Ray Lewis's. I mean, am I forgetting? Am I overlooking somebody? I mean, to me, he fits that mold, and I don't know that that's what the NFL is looking for, a linebacker.
No. I mean, I think they want one linebacker that can still do that. I think there is still value in that to this day, but I mean, let's not forget, for a while, Ray Lewis was an undersized linebacker to a degree. He was just a very smart. I mean, Ray Lewis was an undersized linebacker when he was first playing. And by the end of his career, he was more of a larger, outdated style linebacker. Funny enough.
Can I tell a quick Uncle Dave story?
Let's go, Uncle Dave.
All right. Brought to you by the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Go to hemphousechatwith2ts.com, hemphousechatwith2ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. HOOKED for 10% off. Ray Lewis, when you talk about football and guys that are fast, I know that you watch on TV or you're at the game and you're looking down and you can say, man, Jason Witten is faster than Michigan's entire defense, right? I mean, you have perspective like that. But when you're on the field, it's kind of difficult to see if a guy's a step or two faster, if he's a 4.4 instead of a 4.3 guy. I mean, we're talking about a 10th of a second, right?
Yeah.
The 2 fastest people I've ever seen in person. One's Ray Lewis. I saw him you could go the last 5 minutes, you could go down on the field. And I said to myself, I do not want my son to play NFL football. right then. He was that fast, and it was that crazy and scary. It was like you're in the middle of a horror film. And the other time was Jamal Lewis when he ran the 4.32 40 at 235 pounds and ran his way right into the first round. Nobody was expecting that. That's the two times that my eyeballs, with no stopwatch, have seen somebody that speed and size ratio absolutely blew me away. That's my two guys.
Physical freaks. That is kind of a crazy story. The weirdest part about Ray Lewis, so you just said that about Ray Lewis. Have you ever seen someone that freakishly physically gifted who also has an incredibly high football IQ, in the sense of Ray Lewis was he was the Peyton Manning of film study on defense.
And motor. I mean, he's, other than killing people, he's a perfect linebacker. I will take you back to the Jamal Lewis thing. And this was when a pro day was open sometimes, closed sometimes. It depended really what mood Condridge Holloway was in. So at this time it was open. So we got to see Jamal run, and his entire family was up on one of the perches overlooking the field. You should have heard them cheer. I've seen guys run 4.32s before, but at his size, it was absolutely bizarro. It's time for where are we? This day in Tennessee. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. We got to mention Elijah Simmons. We can't leave him out.
No, we can't leave Elijah Simmons out. Elijah Simmons, and I wanted to ask you just about a couple of guys real quick, if you don't mind, because Elijah Simmons is not on this list, but I still think maybe he should be. Is that weird to say?
No, he shouldn't be on the list, but if he stays healthy, he'll get drafted.
That's hot.
Really? Mm-hmm. That's what you think?
Yep. That size speed ratio, if he is healthy, then he will get drafted. Now, you could be Billy Ratliff, who, God bless him, had so many injuries and had won his final year at Tennessee that they say your body's just too beat up. But if he's healthy this year, he'll get drafted. And if he stays healthy in the NFL, I will go ahead and go out on a limb that he will be one of the steals of the 2025 NFL draft.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's
like a third, fourth round guy, because that size speed ratio, that automatically bumps you up. Whereas if you're a receiver like McCoy, there are a lot of those dudes. So you can drop because of the leg injury. But with Elijah Simmons, I think the size speed ratio will push him up probably a little higher than it should. As long as he's healthy, I think he's going to be a player in the NFL for quite a long time. But that's a monstrous if.
No, that is true. You're right. That is a monstrous if. The last one, last couple I would want to engage with real quick, Dave, is, and this is an honest question. Andre Carrick, not on the list, technically a senior. Do you think that's do you think there's any chance whatsoever that, that Andre Carrick?
I think I think there's a greater chance Andre Carrick transfers than gets drafted.
Wow. Okay. And here's the last one. Could maybe work his way into this. What about this is kind of funny to say. What about Dane Davis, the utility lineman? Been with Tennessee for a while. Or Jackson Lampley. Both of those guys. Funny enough.
I'm going to go negative on both of those. Sorry. I mean, Peyton's mad at me.
Like, that is total bullshit.
I'm sorry. I don't see those guys making it.
Wow, you don't see? Okay. I mean, I'm with you. I'm totally with you. I don't see those guys making it at all. I'm just kind of trolling at this point, but,
If you're agreeing or disagreeing.
No, I mean, I'm with you. They're not going to make it. Like, let's just call it what it is. I was just trying to see your thoughts on all of this.
Fair enough. I remind you that portions of the program are brought to you by our good friends at Neubert Collision Center. In 15 seconds this day in Tennessee sports history, brought to you by Neubert Collision Center.
Fifth year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
What do you got for me, Caleb, on August the 22nd, 2024, T-minus 9 days till he kicks off in Neyland Stadium? Hit that like and subscribe button right now because we're getting things rolling. Tomorrow we'll have our lineup for football season, which will include some old and new friends. Caleb, this day in Tennessee sports history?
It's a kind of interesting one, but it's a little bit random, but it's actually just a press conference, which was 7 years ago today. Tennessee basketball had wrapped up its 10-day European tour in Spain and France. They went 3-0, which actually had shocked themselves by doing that well. And Rick Barnes returned, had a media session, and talked about just how good that team was going to be. It was Grant Williams' sophomore year. And nobody had believed him at that point because Rick Barnes had been at Tennessee for 2 years, and you could see he was building the program, but he had a losing record his first year, and he went 16-16 his second year. And then they go to France and they go to Europe throughout this 10-day trip, and they went 3-0 and just dominated everybody they played. They come back. They shocked the world by going 26-9 and winning a share of the SEC title in 2017-2018, and that was the emergence of the Tennessee basketball program under Rick Barnes. But if you listen to that media press conference that day, and I remember covering it, it all really started in that European trip when they really came together and developed the confidence they needed. And Tennessee has been a basketball program rolling under Rick Barnes ever since.
Wow. So this wasn't a planned press conference? He just put this thing together?
Well, no, it was to recap the European leg tour. And basically it was to recap the tour. The story is that they went 3-0 in Europe during that time, that they just beat the brakes off everybody that they faced. And that really was them coming together as a team.
Grant Williams, when did he convince you? When did you get convinced that he was going to be a good player? Because I'll be honest with you, and I'm a Celtics fan, so I saw him a lot in the NBA. It still befuddles me how he gets what he gets out of that physical ability.
Oh, I actually was convinced his first year. But you have to remember this, Dave, before you – as a Grizzlies fan, I had years and years of watching Zach Randolph, whose jersey number is retired in Memphis. Now, he's listed at 6'9". Dave, I don't know if you've ever seen Zach Randolph up close. He's barely 6'8", and he can't jump. And what he kind of showed was that if you're an undersized power forward, if you have a finesse touch when you shoot, and if you have leverage, then you are still a very effective power forward offensively. And that's what Grant Williams understands. Basically, use your width more than your length. And if you know how to use your width with leverage, you can be a dominant power forward even if you're 6'7".
Okay. No.
Well, Charles Barkley used his girth all the time.
Yes, he's girthy. Caleb, I'm afraid that you might not like the next segment because we're going to take a look at your column that's on offthehooksports.com, and I've got a pretty strong issue with it. Are you ready for this? This could be a
Are we doing this before the tie-breaking process?
Yeah, I'm mixing it up a little bit. But we're going to get to the tiebreaker process in the SEC.
Right, you're throwing me off, but okay.
Care if I shift it a bit?
Right, that's fine. I'm John Chavis with in-game adjustments.
There we go.
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right. Caleb's article is up predicting the SEC, and this is brought to you by Medicare Misty. Licensed in over 40 states, so wherever you are, she can take care of your Medicare needs, and there are no charges for Medicare Misty. She's fantastic. All right, Caleb, you got Tennessee at number 3, and we're going to count them all down, but number 3 in your SEC predicted order of finish. Now, we'll get to 2 and 1. I think people know who 1 is. But first, Tennessee at number 3. I'm confused because you have said Tennessee's going to win a national title, but you have them at number 3. So how does that make sense?
Because the SEC is stupid and it has a 16-team conference with every team playing an 8-team schedule, so not all schedules are created equally. And Tennessee has to...
What do you think about it, Peyton?
They're like, that is total bullshit.
I'm sorry. I could play that 15 times a show. Go ahead.
Tennessee has to visit the most talented team in the SEC this year on the road. I think Tennessee, I picked them to win every other regular season game. They're going to go 11-1, but they're going to lose that one. And there will be another team that doesn't have to play that team on the road. That's not going to lose that game. Therefore, just by default, Tennessee will be pushed to number 3, but it'll be Tennessee number 3, the other team number 2. It's going to be close to figure this out. By the way, I was making these predictions before the tie-breaking scenario came out, but I still am leaning towards likelihood. But yeah, I think Tennessee. Okay.
I did mix it up, and I apologize. The reason I did so is because our earlier question was what senior will have the greatest impact in the NFL, or the greatest season this upcoming year, I should say. 38%. Both Brew McCoy and Cooper Mays tie for that award. Well, here's the new question. I will be content with the Vols finishing blank in the SEC. First only. Second, and play for a title, because you would be in the SEC championship game. Third or better. Fourth or better. So, Caleb, I don't want you to look. I don't want you. Are you looking at the YouTube page right now?
Nope, I'm not.
Okay. What do you think of those 4 are leading?
I think third or better is leading.
It is. Third or better is leading at 43%. Second, and play for a title, 38%. Fourth or better, 19%. I'm going to say that third or better is probably the right option, but for those that want to be ahead of the curve, second and play for a title. I haven't come out with my predictions yet, but I'm not going to be surprised if Tennessee's in Atlanta.
I would rather not play for the title.
So you'd rather be, by default, third or better, and then you don't. If you're third, you're probably going to make the college football playoff, almost certainly.
If you're third, you're going to make the college football playoff, and you're probably going to host a college football playoff game. If you're fourth, you're going to make the college football playoff, but you'll probably have to play a road game. But if you're third, you're a lock for the playoff, and you are probably hosting a game.
But you don't have an opportunity to win the greatest conference, which is the SEC.
Oh my God, we got to hang an SEC championship banner.
It was such a setup for this drop.
Why don't you shut the hell up?
Complete setup for that. Okay, so that means nothing to you, and you're probably going to be right. Just like basketball conference tournaments, eventually it won't mean nearly as much. Now, the rest of Caleb's list is on offthehooksports.com, and there are some that are very interesting. I want to start with South Carolina. You've got them at 16th, worst team in the SEC. Well, if so, that's good for the Vols, because there's going to be a coaching change in Columbia, if that's the case.
Or maybe it's bad because there's going to be a coaching change in Columbia.
That's a good point.
I think South Carolina is going to, most experts are going to predict them to go 1-7 in the SEC. I'm going to predict them to go 0-8.
Arkansas, you have at 15. I love Sam Pittman. So I want to ask you this question about Florida at 14. If you're an athletic director and somebody held a gun to your head and said you have to hire Billy Napier or Shane Beamer, who would you hire?
Oh, gosh.
Okay, let me include 13 that you've got Vanderbilt ranked. Let me include Clark Lee.
Oh, Clark Lee. Let me just break this down real quick. Arkansas and Florida both will be underdogs in 7 of their 8 SEC games. Their only one that they might be favored on for both of them is Mississippi State. So I have them both maybe ahead of South Carolina, but I still think they both go 0-8 too. Vanderbilt, I would take Clark Lee over all of them. Clark Lee is going to win an SEC game this year, guys. And it's going to be against South Carolina at home. That's why Vanderbilt's all the way up at 13. And Florida, Arkansas, and South Carolina are 14 through 16 because Vanderbilt has a conference win. I got locked in for them. Who do you have winning this year, Dave? South Carolina or Vanderbilt in Nashville? I got Vandy.
Gosh, I'll take South Carolina. I was going to pass along something I was told by a source in Florida really quickly.
Okay.
Because I was joking around about the Billy Napier thing, which you made a clip out of, and it got like a ton of hits, and everybody's like, I don't know, I might want Billy Napier to stay around, even if it costs the Vols. It doesn't matter if he stays around, because right now the entire administration is in disarray, much like Tennessee. So they're going to go hire another doofus.
Much like Tennessee used to be.
Used to be. Yes. Used to be. So they're going to hire another doofus. That's what I was told.
Basically, Jeremy Foley was the thing that held that program, that athletic department together.
I thought he was the best athletic director in the SEC for years.
Yeah, he was.
And you know what he would do if you didn't do your job?
He'd fire you.
Fire you, eh?
And by the way, he wouldn't even care if it made him look bad. He put himself out front. He's like, yeah, I screwed up with the Ronzo hire.
Yeah, there was some softball coach that had like 3 years on a resume and still did okay, had a decent season. Boom, he fired her because it wasn't good enough. I can't remember her name. All right, so then we get to teams that really matter, and you've got Oklahoma low. I would agree that you and I agree on Oklahoma that Venables had a nice little run last year, but that's not going to stick. Now, Missouri at 11.
I'm just going to say Oklahoma's going to finish number 12. They're staring 2-6 in the SEC dead in the face.
I agree. Missouri might be the two next programs you have. Which is the tougher to predict, Missouri or Mississippi State?
Well, I'm going crazy on Mississippi State because Mississippi State's number 10. I guarantee you most people have them 15 or 16. I think Mississippi State is going to beat Missouri, Florida, and Arkansas. They get all 3 of those games at home. And Jeff Levy, I'm telling you guys, you are sleeping on him. This dude is maybe the best offensive mind in the SEC now, and that includes with Josh Heupel and Lane Kiffin in there.
Well, he's not that, but he's going to have to do it at Mississippi State, and that's not easy. You know, I think he's very good. I don't think I would have taken the Mississippi State job if I were him, but that's a totally different conversation. Kentucky at number 9.
Yes, I think Kentucky is actually more dangerous than these other teams because Kentucky, look, I think they actually have the match they need now for their offense. Mark Stoops' defense is going to be fine. You and I both agree. Mark Stoops, his defense is always going to be set, right? It's the offense that's
Yes. And isn't it funny how I think Kentucky 9, and that seems low because it just still doesn't seem like Texas and Oklahoma should be in the SEC. They're two more teams.
But 9 is middle of the pack in the SEC now.
I know, it's bizarre. Now you have Texas at number 8.
I just wanted to say Bush Hamden and Brock Vandergriff are Bush Hamden running the West Coast offense. Brock Vandergriff was a 5-star, known for his accuracy and quick release, which is epitome of the West Coast offense. You got your offense coordinator and quarterback match. That overcomes a lot of talent disadvantages, guys. Okay.
Texas at number 8. That is astonishingly low compared to most people. Why?
I think Texas is overrated. I've said that for a while. Now, let me be clear. Texas is where we reach everybody from Texas up is going to be a college football playoff caliber team. Every single one of them, all 8. They're all going to be in the fight to get there.
So is your tier the number 1 team, which we know is Georgia? And then there's a second tier of 7 teams?
There's a second tier of 7 teams that will range from 6-2 to 7-1 to even 4-4. Yeah, and I think Texas is going to finish 4-4.
Okay. Auburn, you give them a little bit of credit if they're the 7th best team in the SEC, and because I know you don't like Hugh Freeze, that would be a step in the right direction for Freeze. It depends what happens a lot of times in that Alabama game, and you've got Alabama at number 6.
Yes. Now, hear me out with this. Now, Auburn, by the way, is going to, if the Iron Bowl was in Auburn, I'd actually be higher, but because it's in Tuscaloosa, that won't happen. Alabama is going to be, they will be the 1-3 loss team in this year's college football playoff. They're going 9-3. You heard it here first. They're going 9-3. They're losing at Tennessee. They're going to lose to LSU, and they're going to lose to Georgia.
Matt brought up a really good point. Texas has lost its top 2 tailbacks to knee injuries for the season. And I just want to tell you that when you lose 2 people at the same position, it does affect your preseason practice. So, I mean, you're not only scrambling to find another player, you're having trouble giving your defense the best looks possible. So that's bad. I mean, you don't want that to happen. All right, Ole Miss in at number 5. My goodness. Ole Miss, to me, could be 1 or 10. This is the toughest team to predict.
They don't have to play Alabama. See, here's the thing. Alabama's finishing below Ole Miss, but Alabama's better than Ole Miss, and Alabama will get the college football playoff nod before Ole Miss. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because Alabama's overall schedule strength will matter more. Ole Miss they'll lose to Georgia, but they get a very favorable schedule most of the time. So they're going to finish 6-2, and just by basic SEC standings, technically having a better record than Alabama, who's going to finish 5-3 in the SEC, Ole Miss will finish ahead of them.
Okay, so we are at the top four. The top four, which includes Tennessee, is brought to you by Medicare Misty, licensed in over 40 states. So if you're watching, she can probably take care of you. No charge for her services. Medicare Misty, support our sponsors. That's why we're here. The top four in 30 seconds.
19 years this year. Well, I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
All right, Caleb, break down your top four. Texas A&M at 4, Tennessee at 3, LSU at 2. Did either of those three truly challenge Georgia in your mind?
No, nobody's really truly challenging Georgia. Texas A&M, though, is because people are going to ask me about this because I have Alabama at 6 and Texas A&M at 4. Texas A&M is my other surprise team in the SEC. I think Texas A&M is a college football playoff caliber team. They will finish 9-3 and 6-2 in the SEC because of a favorable schedule again. And so, yeah, I got them at number 4. And then, yes, Tennessee at number 3. They will finish 7-1. Again, very favorable schedule. The key will come down to them beating Alabama. LSU, not as favorable of a schedule, but I think LSU is going to end up beating Alabama. And I think Brian Kelly's got things right. And so I think there's a possibility LSU has an undefeated regular season.
You know that people in the message board are just going to call you but LSU homer, even though you have no tie there. You like LSU a lot.
Yes. Guys, if Brian Kelly had his defense together, LSU's winning the national title last year.
Yeah. Okay. In 2 minutes, the SEC tiebreaker.
And by the way,
yes,
Georgia's going to beat LSU in the SEC championship game. That's how this is going to work out.
Not really ready to give my prediction yet, but I have Georgia winning the SEC championship game, but the team that I think they beat might just be clad in big orange. How about 2 minutes?
You have Tennessee going 10-2. You have them losing 2 conference games. And you think they'll get to the SEC title?
I told you my prediction's not done yet. I put a lot of thought into this. I'll have my final prediction next week.
You got to explain to me how a 6-2 team in the SEC will finish second in a 16-team league with no divisions.
Well, no, I may take that away. I may change. I may say they beat Alabama. What I'm giving you now is just preliminary. When I go on the record and my final, I will stick by that through the year. But I'm not giving you that yet. I'm not ready for that yet. The tiebreaker for the SEC coming up next. Also, talk some Chris Brazzell. He's going to be really good, and he's autographing all kinds of awesome memorabilia at Sports Treasures on Sunday. So you need to check that out. Now, take just a second, if you don't mind. I want to tell you about our friends at Quality Tire Pros. The Eberle family has been serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brake alignments, oil changes, and more. All work covered by nationwide warranty. QualityTirePros.com, QualityTirePros.com. Tell Bo and our friends there at Quality Tire Pros, Cherokee and Chattanooga, that we said, hey, Bo, Off the Hook Sports says hello. In 2 minutes, Caleb is going to explain this tiebreaker for the SEC championship game, which I'm sure will be convoluted and crazy.
When the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Step up your game in this 24 Ford Maverick Hybrid, 25 515, 23 Ford Escape all-wheel drive, $30,995. 24 Ford F-250 Crew Cab 4x4 STX, $59,757. Local you trust, performance you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, who is it?
The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of Off the Hook Sports, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Hey, Caleb, I want to break a rule. Is that okay? That we do an element more than once in a show, because this one fits perfectly for What the H.
Sure, why not?
Okay, all right. I'm going to break a rule here in just a second. First, I want to get to the stat of the day. Stat of the day brought to you today by our good buddies at Ray Varner Ford. What is the stat of the day, Caleb?
The stat of the day is I'm going to send a shout out to, it's August the 22nd, and I want to send a shout out to a guy who helped Tennessee win the East with a big play one day, who wore number 22 and then got dismissed from the team 3 days later. And that would be when Tennessee in 2007 played South Carolina.
Yeah. Okay.
They were up 21-0. They blew the 21-0 lead and were trailing 24-21 late in the game. And LaMarcus Coker
Oh my gosh, how did I get that?
37-yard kickoff return that sets Tennessee up for a game-time field goal so they can go win in overtime. And then he gets dismissed like 3 days later.
Who on the message board remembers LaMarcus Coker? Because we've had the discussion of guys that have wasted the most talent, and Caleb, James Banks tops that list, but LaMarcus Coker's in the discussion.
LaMarcus Coker was Alvin Kamara before Alvin Kamara. I mean, he was that good, guys. That dude was insane. And honestly, what he got dismissed for was stupid. I don't think weed should ever be held against players anyway. If you can ball like that when you're high on weed, man, do it. Go all in.
I had one player that told me that he said they kicked my buddy off the team because he failed a drug test. And I said, well, rules are rules. He goes, Dave, I've failed 23 drug tests. I was like, okay. But they wanted the scholarship from the other kid. The other guy was good. The guy that failed 23 of them. The guy that just failed 3 and got kicked off the team, he was
well,
not.
Then why didn't they make that exception for LaMarcus Coker? That dude was too good.
Well, that Philip Fulmer was under a lot of scrutiny. I think that answers your question. I'm talking about 7 years earlier. He had let discipline go, and I don't think he had the power that he once had. I think that's the answer to your question.
Okay. I mean, that that does make perfect sense. I mean, I'm not.
And I hadn't thought about it before, but yeah, I mean, they have played the same position.
Well, and also just to get to the just to add to this stat of the day that we're talking about, that was that run by number 22 did happen on the 8th game of the season for Tennessee. So it was August the 22nd, and today it was 8/22. Today's August the 22nd, 8/22.
All right. Stat of the day is turning into a numerology thing. Are you one of those numerology guys? Like Lincoln's secretary was Kennedy and Kennedy's secretary was Lincoln or whatever.
I mean, I know a lot. I mean, I'm a history major, so I know a lot of that stuff. But like, I do create patterns out of things. There's a historian who's actually he created a set of keys to determine who'd be the presidential winner. It has accurately determined who the presidential winner would have been, and every election dating back to 1860.
Caleb will tell you who's going to be the United States' next president, and we will have the SEC's attempt at breaking a tie, which is going to happen. 30 seconds, thanks to Ray Varner Ford.
And the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford in Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Experience quality and value in this pre-owned 2023 Ford Expedition Limited 4x4 $67,950, 2017 Ford F-150 Raptor SVT $41,950, 2023 Ford Escape ST Line $28,940. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
All right, let's get to this tiebreaker because it's going to happen. It came up a couple of times when there was the East and the West, but it's going to come up even more now. So I'm just going to turn this to you for a second, Caleb, and explain this tiebreaker to me. And then at some point, I'm going to drop in the what the H element because there's part of it that I think is very comical.
Okay, so I do think the way they start this makes sense. So the first tiebreaker, head-to-head. Totally fair, right? Totally legitimate.
Yes.
All right. Second one, record versus all common conference opponents among the tied teams. Again, makes sense, right?
I'm good with that.
All righty. This is where I start to have a problem. Record against the highest placed common conference opponent in the conference standings and proceeding through the conference standings among the tied teams.
Oh, okay. I guess you've got a problem with that one?
Yes, because the one that I'm about to name should be higher than that. You ready for the one I'm about to name?
I am.
Cumulative conference winning percentage of all conference opponents among tied teams. That should be third because that is schedule strength. That should take precedent over your record against just the highest placed conference opponent because like this is the thing I always have a problem with schedule strength, Dave. Schedule strength isn't just comparing how you both did against the best team one day. It's also who had a more group. Like it's one thing to get up to play Georgia. It's another thing to like have to like week after week get up to play a good team week to week, isn't it? Maybe not Georgia, but after you got Georgia, you got to go play, I don't know, you're playing Oklahoma and the other team's playing Vanderbilt. Yeah, maybe you both play Georgia, but having to get up for Georgia and then having to go play Oklahoma is a heck of a lot harder than having to play Georgia and then having to go play Vanderbilt.
I think Kentucky has had a negative effect on Tennessee. Now, Tennessee's had its own problems, but Kentucky, that used to be recruiting week. So the fact that you actually have to prepare for them and it is a physical game, yes, I see what you're saying. In the SEC, there's not a significant drop down in talent-wise unless you're playing, Vanderbilt?
Yeah. And well, the bottom, 5 teams that we named in the last segment. And
they're still more, but I would argue they're still more talented than all but 2 teams in the Big Ten. Take out Vanderbilt, I would take the bottom of the SEC versus all but 2 of the teams.
The SEC is deeper than the Big Ten, I agree. But do you think Florida would finish ahead of Penn State, Oregon, or Penn State or Oregon? You think Florida would finish ahead of Penn State or Oregon, Dave? Come on.
Maybe I exaggerated just a little bit, but I want to get to the final.
All right, not even Iowa or Wisconsin. They wouldn't finish ahead of them either.
Okay. I want to get to the final, though. Are we to the last
No,
one?
no.
Okay.
We got 2 more. Now, by the way, I think the cumulative conference, it's never going to get this far because once you get to schedule strength, it's over. But okay, I don't like this one either. But this one does benefit Tennessee, this tiebreaker. Capped relative scoring margin versus all conference opponents among the tied teams. So margin of victory is going to be a factor. Meaning, you know how Josh Heupel is. If it ever gets that far, Tennessee's got an advantage, man.
Well, they do.
I mean, I'm not a fan of it. And I don't think you believe in margin of victory either because of teams play differently. But
okay, now do we know what it's capped at?
I don't know what it's capped at. No.
Now, how much is this? Now, Georgia, I don't think it's going to be in a tiebreaker, but how much does this hurt a team like Georgia that relies on defense?
A lot. I think that's why I don't like it. That's why I don't like it at all. And I don't think it's fair. I mean, Tennessee fans should be happy, but honestly, I'm not a fan. Teams play differently.
Are they thinking to themselves, let's make margin of victory so there's more scoring and it's more exciting because scoring equals ratings?
Possibly. By the way, I love how on the message board I've been called a commie and a libertarian within like 5 minutes. Okay, those are like opposite political spectrums. That's great. But here's the problem with it. Say one team goes to overtime and wins by 7. The other team wins off a field goal or off 1 point in regulation. The overtime win is going to have greater margin of victory than the team that won in regulation.
Well, yep. I mean, they're not going to. I don't think they're going to get to that point where they're determining how they win games. But I'll give you a great example. When was the Miami beatdown in Neyland Stadium? It was like
2002.
That 26-13 or something like that.
26-3.
Okay, 26-3. Okay, Miami could have embarrassed Tennessee. That was a much better team. If they wanted to, they could have scored more points. They took their foot off the gas. Caleb, I believe that's the gentlemanly way to play. So if Josh Heupel is up 20 points on a team and he thinks that margin of victory can help by scoring an extra touchdown or 2, that to me is on the SEC, and that is not promoting what I think is a sportsmanlike product.
I totally agree. By the way, the other one, Georgia 2022, they could have beaten Tennessee 44-13 if they wanted to. They took their foot off the gas to win 27-13. By the way, but that's the last one before the tiebreaker you hate, because we got to lay into that for just 1 second.
Okay, I love this one.
Random draw of the tied teams. The draw sticks, man.
Random draw. I hope they need to broadcast that like the college football playoff and a playoff committee selection shows. And they need to have that with the straws and have the coaches there and show the true disappointment on some of their faces. But I wonder if some of them would rather not make the SEC championship game.
That's exactly where I was going. If you're in a tie to play for the SEC title, is it safe to say, Dave, you're a lock for the college football playoff and probably even host a home game in the college football playoff?
Yes. So why wouldn't you want to skip it? I can see that.
Why wouldn't you want to skip it? By the way, which is why maybe you don't want to run up the score. Maybe you want to sit on the lead because you don't want to win the tiebreaker, because you don't want to play for the SEC title, because you don't want to have to play that extra game before the college football playoff. Told you guys they were going to kill the SEC title game and kill the value of it. I didn't do it. Don't blame me.
Okay, I really hate agreeing with you on that, but something we can definitely agree on. The fire opals at Rick Terry Jewelry Design are for you. Affordable game day jewelry. Check them out. Rick Terry Jewelry Design. Man, I can't tell you enough about them. RickTerryJewelry.com. Certainly check them out on Kingston Pike. We're joined by a special guest who, man, he's got a big event lined up. It is Zach here, joins us now from Sports Treasures. Zach, how are you, sir?
Doing good. How about you guys?
Good. Tell us about what's going on Sunday. You got a big name guy that's name is just going to get bigger from what I've been told throughout the season.
Yep. So we will have Chris Brazil here on Sunday from 3 to 5 signing. We have some tickets left. Regular tickets are $20. A couple of VIP tickets left. That gets you autograph, picture with him, inscription, and then you either get a mini helmet or a football, and then you get front of the line access. They got a handful of those left, and those are $60. But yeah, looking forward to getting him out. Some of those clips I've seen from practice have looked pretty good.
Yeah, agreed. Especially like catching the ball even while he's covered. He's just able to out-muscle guys. And you had another guy like that with Brew McCoy, who's able to out-muscle guys. How did the Chris signing come about?
So he's got the same agent as I had Barron, Beasley, and Walker out last year.
Mm-hmm.
So he's the same agent as them, and they reached out to kind of want to get Chris out here to do his first event, coming from Tulane. He hasn't really done any big signings or anything like that. So kind of wanted to give him a chance to get out to the public. And so we thought with it, 6 days before football season for that signing, nice little kickoff there to the season.
Yep. He's got to be excited. I've told people this a million times. I'm going to say it again. Oh, we cut off Zach's head, but I'm going to include, if I can, I want to include, I don't know how to uncut your head, but there's the QR code. Follow Zach on Facebook at Sports Treasures TN, and we'll bring Zach's full head back. Sorry about that. But people need the best way, because I share as many things as I can on the Off the Hook Sports Facebook page, but people need to follow you because these events are coming about pretty often. And I think with NIL, that'll continue.
Yeah. The NIL makes it a little bit easier. Like I said, we can get these guys in, whereas before, you had to wait till they graduated or something like that. And then, as you know, Tennessee fans can kind of be on to the next one. A lot of times with people. So, it's good to get them in while they're current, getting Chris in before the season. From what I've seen, I kind of compared him. I think he has the potential to be a bigger Jalen Hyatt. I feel like he's similar build and runs the same, does the same thing, but he's not a beanpole.
All right. Zach, we appreciate all that you do, buddy. And I want to remind people to join Hooker's Corner, and they can win that Joe helmet, the Joe Milton autographed helmet, the mini helmet, which is right behind me. So thank you for all you do. People need to check you out. 35 years, North Knoxville. And the signing is what time again on Sunday?
Sunday from 3 to 5. They can come in if they want to. If they want to message us on social media, Facebook or Instagram, where they can call the shop, 865-688-2273. We can go ahead and get you on that list. Like I said, we do limit tickets now, a little stricter than we used to.
That's because it got a little wild, right?
Yeah, Christian Moore and Hunter Ensley got a little wild.
Okay, what I'm going to do for fans that want to be there, I'm going to drop your Facebook page into the there you are. I'm going to drop that into the chat so people can check you out. But even if you can't make it on Sunday, I highly recommend you get down there because it's just like walking around in one of the coolest shops you've ever been a part of. So there it is. Our Facebook page is in the message board. Go ahead and follow and like him. And Zach, we'll talk to you soon, buddy. I appreciate you.
Awesome, guys. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, man. That's Zach here of Sports Treasures. So I should have asked Zach, is it Brazil or Brazil? Do we know for sure? Because if it was Brazil, it would sound like gazelle, and that would be cool.
I mean, you could still say it anyway, just to make it sound cool. So it doesn't really matter.
Did you know Joe Theismann was Joe Theismann?
I did not, but Theismann sounds better because it sounds like Heisman.
That's why they did it.
Yeah.
True story. You didn't know that?
Did not know that at all. No.
Yeah.
So the pronunciation of his name is as out of place as his leg was. Okay, sorry. Bad joke. Bad joke. I'm going to hell.
Ouch. All right.
Literally.
College football predictions. Caleb's got them on offthehooksports.com. I want to hear whether or not you agree or disagree. He's got them all across the board. So how do you want to do this? Do you want to talk bowl games? Do you want to talk teams that make the playoffs? You set me up. How do we start this?
Okay, I didn't do all 36 bowl game projections because guess what, guys? Bowl games are meaningless now, just like conference title games. But I will go down the list of conference champions real quick of all the conferences. And you guys aren't going to care about these, but I'm going to name them anyway. So my conference championship predictions, and stop me if you disagree on any of these, Dave. Sun Belt, James Madison will beat Appalachian State. The MAC, Miami will beat Toledo. Conference USA, Liberty will beat Jacksonville State. The Mountain West, UNLV will beat Boise State. Everybody's high on Fresno State or San Diego State, but they're all going with new head coaches, and I actually think UNLV is a fast rising Group of 5 program. And then in the American, I think Memphis is going to beat, believe it or not, South Florida. And Alex Goals will have South Florida 1 game short of being the Group of 5 team in the college football playoff this year. That's how high I am.
Boy, then if Tennessee doesn't perform well, you know what's going to happen. People are going to point the finger at Joey Halzle, rightly or wrongly. That's what's going to happen. Rest of the conference champions?
Yes. So now for the Big Four, the ACC. Now you can tell me if you agree or disagree with these, Dave. I got Clemson beating Florida State for the title game.
I would agree with that. Yes.
Alrighty. Big 12, I've got Utah beating Kansas State. SC Plus and FPI have Kansas State and Kansas as higher teams, but I think actually Utah, with the physical offense they run and the finesse of the Big 12, I actually think Utah's a great fit for that conference to just take over.
I agree. I think Utah can do that, and BYU is having problems. So I don't know how many kids you recruit in that state, but it's always good when your rival's having some problems.
All right, so here's where your head's going to explode. I already told you guys I got Georgia over LSU in the SEC. We talked about that recently. The Big Ten, Oregon is beating Penn State for the Big Ten title.
That's hot.
Wait, so you don't have Ohio State or Michigan, last year's national champion, and arguably one of the 2 or 3 most talented teams in the nation, winning their own conference?
Michigan, okay, here's what's going to happen. Michigan is visiting Ohio State this year, so Ohio State's going to beat them.
Okay.
They also face Oregon. They're going to lose to Oregon. That's 2 conference losses that they're going to have. Ohio State, the wheels are coming off the program. They're visiting Penn State. They're going to lose at Penn State. And because of that, Penn State, with maybe a 1-loss team, having not played Michigan, with these records, I told you guys, I hate this no division conference stuff. It's stupid to determine the top 2 teams in the conference. But because of that, Penn State's going to back in and play for the Big Ten title because they don't play Michigan. Oregon is going undefeated in the regular season this year. They are the best team in the Big Ten by far, by the way. I think Oregon is far and away the best team in the Big Ten this year.
Okay, I like that. Someone's asking me a question. See if you can figure that out. As I want to get to your first 4 out of the college football playoff and the rest of the conference champions. Asia Cafe, treat yourself to authentic Asian cuisine handcrafted from Guarded Family Recipe. 5 locations to choose from. AsiaCafe.org. That's AsiaCafe.org. And don't forget about the 6-to-1 Brazilian coffee energy booster premix, white coffee, golden label coffee bag with the Lim Dynasty on there since 1909. Philip Lim has carried the torch as a 3-generation family business and started to expand the Lim Dynasty right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. But as for Asia Cafe, you can pick up the coffee there and you can pick up incredible food, which is what I'm doing tonight at Asia Cafe. Go to asiacafe.org, learn more, and find the location nearest you. It's phenomenal. Okay, so what am I in trouble on the message board? Somebody's saying, I asked Dave, said we spend 20 of our budget, so he must have some inside tracking. Literally no one else said, or it's pure cope. What am I being questioned about? I'm curious.
Maybe they're talking about what you say you deal with NIL. I don't know, because you have former players on your show. I don't know.
Okay, I don't know. All right, first 4. Do we have all the conference champions listed?
Yep, already listed them. So let's get to the first 4 out real quick.
First 4 out, and I completely disagree with the first one I see in the Notre Dame Fighting Irish because I think the wheels come off, and I think they have a horrible season. You have Florida State, which I want to discuss. You have the Texas A&M Aggies. You like Elko more than me. They're not ready. They will be. And then you have the Iowa Hawkeyes, who all run about a 4.940. I can only agree that one of these teams deserves to even be in the first 4 out, Caleb.
Florida State will be in the first 4 out because there will only be one ACC team go. Do you agree with me on that? The ACC champion. They ain't putting anybody else in there.
I could see Clemson and Florida State.
No, Florida State's not going. They're going to knock Florida State out.
I'll raise my hand. I want to be wrong, but I could see it.
It's not happening.
Okay.
Now, okay, Notre Dame, I think they're beating Texas A&M to start the year, and I think they're going to go, but I think they're going to slip up. So I think they'll slip up. I think they'll lose to Florida State, funny enough, who we're talking about, and I think they're going to lose at Georgia Tech, and they might even lose to Louisville. But, Dave, they're playing Northern Illinois, Purdue, Miami, Stanford, Navy, Virginia, Army, and USC, and I think the wheels come off USC more than Notre Dame, so I think Notre Dame's going to beat USC. And because of that, I think they'll still be like 9-3, 10-2, just knocking on the door. And maybe now, maybe they'll never. Maybe I'm wrong with this. Maybe because of Notre Dame's brand, it's impossible for them to be first four out. Because if they're first four out, for the TV show, you're putting them in, right?
That's a good point. For the TV show, that you would put them in. Now, Iowa's kind of the flip because they're as boring as white sliced bread. I mean, so they could be the flip side. They could be, we're trying to decide on this 12th team, and it's Iowa and Team X. Boy, Iowa's boring. Let's go Team X.
Yeah, no, that's true. Iowa, I had them as the first four out because of their schedule. They get Ohio State on the road. That's a loss. But, Dave, they play Illinois State, Iowa State, Troy, Minnesota, Washington at home, and not the same Washington from last year, by the way. Michigan State, Northwestern, Wisconsin at home, at UCLA, who has a new coach who doesn't even know where he is, Maryland, Nebraska. They could easily go 11-1.
Fair enough.
And then they'll be left out because their schedule. Texas A&M, by the way, I just wanted to throw this. They're going to go 9-3, 6-2 in the SEC, but because they have 3 losses with that Notre Dame loss, that's what's going to keep them out of the playoff.
Okay, so then we have Tennessee. By the way, Kirk Ferentz, I'm just seeing, received a 1-game suspension for recruiting violations at Iowa. That's not going to help.
Oh, well, that just ruins my prediction. When they're going to lose to Illinois State now. When they play Illinois State, it's over.
No, it doesn't ruin your prediction, but it's funny to me. Ferentz, the most conservative coach that I know of, is cheating in recruiting. That's a sign that everybody's cheating in recruiting. That's like Mother Teresa holding up a poker room. All right, so round 1, you've got the Vols playing Memphis in
at
what
home.
would be an awesome matchup, and that would be at Tennessee.
Yep, number 5 Vols playing number 12 Memphis. Memphis will be the top group of 5 team. Dave, we kind of agree the top group of 5 team is going to be the lowest seed in the playoff every year, right? They're not going to give them like a higher seed.
Unless they go undefeated, maybe they'll give them a little bump, but they're never going to be 8 or higher because that would be a home game.
Yes, they don't want those group of 5 teams playing at their stadiums at home. And by the way, the Liberty Bulls, which is awful, as you said, is undergoing so much construction this year. They would never let Memphis play a home game in that stadium. So I think that, yes, Tennessee is going to beat Memphis Tennessee will be the top non-bye team because they won't win their conference and you automatically don't get a bye if you don't win your conference. They'll be the best team that doesn't win the conference this year. So they'll be number 5 and they'll host Memphis, which honestly I think is even better than having to play for the SEC title and go try to get it by.
Guys, take 1 second and do what Cooper Mays would advise you to do, which is
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Please do that because we've got a special guest. We might just drop it today. We might have it during the show tomorrow. So turn your notifications on as well. Current Tennessee player will join us this afternoon. No, it's not Cooper. He's already up and live. So the rest of your quarterfinals, you've got Alabama. Pardon me.
Quarterfinals round 1, first round. Quarterfinals is the next round.
Right. So first round 1. I got my round names confused. All right. So you've got Alabama over Penn State.
Penn State will play that game at home because Alabama will be the 1-3 loss team to get into the playoff because they'll deserve it. But Alabama as a 3-loss team is still a top 5 talent team, and they'll blow out Penn State at Penn State.
I would agree with that. I pretty much agree with everything you said there. LSU over Ohio State.
Yes. LSU, by virtue of playing for the SEC title and losing, will get a home game in the first round, but they won't get a bye. And Ohio State, by not going to the Big Ten title, will have to play the road game. LSU, that game's going to be in Baton Rouge, and I think LSU will win.
Michigan over Ole Miss, and then we're going to get to the quarterfinals. Do you want to say something about Michigan over Ole Miss?
Well, do you think I'm crazy putting Ole Miss in the playoff?
I think you're crazy putting Michigan in the playoff. I think the wheels are going to come off and they're going to lose 4 games this year.
I don't think it's possible with their schedule to lose 4 games. I think they're going to go 10-2 and they'll get in. And here's the thing. They'll be 10-2. Ole Miss will be 10-2. Ole Miss's 10-2 resume will be better than Michigan's, but this is the politicking you talked about, Dave. Would you rather a playoff game be in the Big House or in Oxford? If you're the
probably Big House. Are you familiar with the term FAPI?
Dave, generations say things different, but the first 3 letters of that means something totally different that you probably might want to look up.
Okay.
For my generation.
Happy is fat and happy. That's Michigan. They've won their championship. I see a fall off there. All right, now we get to the quarterfinals. In the Fiesta Bowl, Tennessee, you say, will beat Utah, which will be the number 4, and have a bye. Now, it's interesting to me you have them in the Fiesta Bowl because the Sugar would have a Southeast appeal, and it really has to. And the reason I would imagine you have them going to the Fiesta Bowl over the Sugar is because you got the Sugar, Clemson, and Alabama.
Yes, because what's these bowl games, the 4 bowls that are designated, the way I think they're going to try to do this is to get the 4 teams with the bye, designate them to the bowl games that are closest to them. You see what I'm saying? So like Utah will play in the Fiesta Bowl because that's closest to Utah. Georgia will be the number 1 overall seed. They're going to get the Peach Bowl because that's Atlanta. Oregon for the Rose Bowl because that's out west. And then I think Clemson for the Sugar Bowl by default after that would be the closest. So I think, but then they will seed like they'll say Tennessee by virtue of being the best non-bye team to advance, they'll get to play the worst team that got a bye, which is how you will have them playing Utah in the Fiesta Bowl. And I think Tennessee should love that matchup.
Okay, Rose Bowl, you've got Oregon over LSU and Peach Bowl, Georgia over Michigan. Again, Michigan way too deep for me, but which of those 2 do you feel best about?
Georgia over Michigan. Over Michigan. I mean, Georgia will absolutely dominate. Or I have Oregon over LSU because I still think there's a couple of defensive issues for LSU that will come out back to bite them. And also, guys, look at what Oregon's done. Oregon is the Tennessee of out west with NIL, and they got war daddies now. This is the first time ever you can actually look at Oregon and say they have war daddies. So, and Dan Lanning's building them that way. So I think they're going to be very, very good. And yes, by the way, Sugar Bowl, am I crazy for having everybody's writing off Clemson, and I got them beating Alabama in the Sugar Bowl.
All right. Orange Bowl, Georgia.
Now we're in the semifinals. We're in the Final 4, guys.
Semifinals. Final 4. This is it. Georgia, Clemson, Tennessee, Oregon. We've got Georgia beating Clemson. No surprise.
No surprise.
Tennessee beating Oregon.
That's a battle of the 2 best NIL collectives in college football, by the way. The 2 smartest ones, the 2 most efficient ones, the 2 that are doing everything right.
I noticed you said best, not most lucrative.
Right, not most lucrative. Best, smartest. I think Oregon has the war daddies. Tennessee has them too, and I think Tennessee has the quarterback. And the quarterback, it's Dylan Gabriel versus Nico Iamaleava. Dave, call me crazy. I'm taking Nico Iamaleava. And yes, Lance is right. Check your Urban Dictionary when you say fat.
I heard you. National championship, Tennessee over Georgia.
It's a revenge game. Tennessee's beating Georgia.
Well, the question I have is, will this be the 3rd time they have played? Check out my shirt. Man, this is awesome. Look at the embroidery. Whether you need it for your business or your spirit wear, Apex Apparel Group Design. Call Tyler. Get 15% off your first order at 865-919-3001, 865-919-3001, or the link is right below. Check them out. Apex Apparel Group Design. And, man, my shirt looks awesome. Okay, so is this the 3rd time they play? We know they're going to play once in the regular season. Do you think they play in the SEC championship game?
I do not. I think Tennessee will deserve to play in the SEC championship game, but I think by losing to Georgia, they won't get the rematch they deserve in the SEC championship game. And by the way, I don't think Tennessee wants that rematch. I think they'll you guys can have your cute little conference title game. We'd rather be the top team outside of the first round buys and go blow out Memphis.
You know what's crazy? I mean, I know that if they played in the SEC championship game, they'd have time to recover. But Georgia does have that kind of Alabama factor going at it, and that is the next week is more difficult because it was such a physical game. Added to that, it is another opportunity for somebody to get hurt. And we saw Tennessee deal with injuries last year. Georgia's a very physical football team. And I'm not saying Tennessee should be scared to play them because they might get hurt, okay? But I'm just saying, I hate it. I hate your argument, but it's right. To not play in the SEC championship game is actually going to be an advantage. I hate that. I think winning the SEC should still mean something.
You don't, guys, you don't think I want the SEC? I am a traditionalist. I'm the one who fought against the playoff from the start. But I warned y'all, if you make the playoff, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have this 12-team playoff with all these wild cards and also say the conference championship games are going to matter. That's never, they can't coexist.
He is Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. Adam says, imagine Tennessee at Memphis in the Liberty Bowl, 50% orange. No,
they would never do that.
Yeah, that's gonna be a kneeling, Adam. Don't worry about that. That would be the most bizarre thing ever if somehow they put Tennessee in Memphis, in their state, not in Neyland Stadium. That would be atrocious. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. I remind you, the show is represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why Banks and Jones? Other lawyers say they'll go to trial. They won't. They'll settle and settle for less. Banks and Jones goes to trial. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney. Why settle? Banks and Jones. Play to win, led by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. Wes, I agree with you. Clemson is not that good. I think the two teams we disagree on, let's say three, would be Michigan, Clemson. I would say those are the two. Michigan's on a whole nother level of disagreement for me, but we'll see. But you think Sherron Moore is the next Philip Fulmer?
I mean, he won all the big games for Michigan last year. And remember when Michigan, it was so inspiring when they took the delay of game to honor Jim Harbaugh, who, suffered the chronic illness of being suspended.
And Reg Talk says it. You get a bye if you don't play in the SEC championship game. Boy, I hate it because I think it's a heck of an event.
Yeah, they say you're playing. They say you play the SEC championship game to try to get the bye. Or you could just not play the SEC championship game and that'd be your bye. I mean, either way.
And you would play a lesser opponent in the game that replaced it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, because you're not playing Georgia.
Because you're not playing Georgia.
Hit the like and subscribe button. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you at 10 a.m. Eastern time each and every weekday. For Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.